Yeah.
that red one there. Just because it needs to stay in the system. And then we reevaluate tomorrow, and they transition you, and then you need to have the follow-ups with potentially all these things, or you don't. I don't know.
So the risk, and this is just WebMD shit, so it may not be wrong, but the ER doctor said something too that, and I'm going to try and explain it to my understanding the best I can, Jake, is that those blood clots are in there, and our goal is to get them to dissolve, right, with the stuff, the blood thinner,
Heparin.
the heparin,
Yeah.
and so he goes home, right, because his levels are down, but those little pieces could break off and stop his heart or kill his brain, right?
Yeah. So I mean,
Well, that's why I'm on a pill form of the same.
Is that what? Okay.
yeah. So you're going to be transitioned to unless they say everything's been completely dissolved and your risk is. But it sounds like you might already been high risk to begin with,
We didn't know that.
You didn't know. That's what I'm saying. People don't know that. That's why they end up in the ER.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know the things you know, and then you're like, oh, you got diabetes, you got all these things, and you're like, and obviously we would love for these things to get addressed in outpatient, but they don't always, because people don't always go to the doctor because they're healthy. And even then, the doctor's not going to run all these other tests because you're healthy,
Right.
looking or appearing, right? So at the
Right.
end of the day, you would get transitioned presumably to some sort of agent, either injections or pills or whatever they choose, that would mimic this, that doesn't require kind of the acute phase of being monitored in the hospital.
Okay. Okay.
Your risk is not zero of those things, but
Okay.
I mean you can't
Thank
ever to have a zero risk is not.
From this point forward, I have more than zero risk.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah, that's a good point.
So, but you can't have, and no one can offer you zero risk. You just have to,
Yeah.
but you don't have zero risk doing so many things in your life, right? So
Fair.
it's
Yeah.
statistically it's more than it was previously, hypothetically, but at the same time you already had a higher risk to begin with than you
Right.
didn't necessarily know
Or
about.
not, because now we know. So the risk went up and you got sick or whatever, and then now we know about
Now you
it,
can be
so
tr-
we
now
can
you be
monitor.
treated, and
Yeah.
now you're going to follow up with the provided, someone that can
Yeah.
manage this outpatient,
Right.
in which you'll be seeing someone regularly for them to kind of just evaluate you.
And so it'll be left to be determined in a couple days or whatever if they rerun any MRI or anything, or what keep saying MRI. I don't know the difference. CT scan to see if they're are they going to go look again, Jake, to see what's going on in there?
I don't know.
Okay,
if,
that's okay.
I think you're you don't always have to do the repeats,
Gotcha.
because you kind of identified already what's there, and then it takes time, right? So repeating is, what's the point? It's
Right.
we're already kind of on the standard of treatment. There's so many research studies on what you're doing. This is every place does this.
Okay.
So, but in terms of the frequency of repeats and stuff like that, you ask the provider, what they think. You can advocate for it, but I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go do it. There's not I do it in 2 days or 3 days or whatever.
Okay, so they may decide that it could be a little too early to really get back in.
So that's the thing. I don't know on that, but hopefully this has kind of clarified things. And you're
Tremendously.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't think you need a second IV right now. That one I think was infiltrated, so that was why it was hurting you a little bit. But as I said, a lot was going on right then, so we just weren't going to use it. But
Thank you.
yeah, now it's out. You might need a second one at some point, but if for whatever reason they needed to do a repeat because you're on the heparin, sometimes they do CTs with contrast. I don't know, and so you might get it for that. But if we don't do a CT, then you don't necessarily need another IV right now.
Okay.
Good. All right.
Thank you.
All right.